Welcome back to episode number 3 of TWiP Weddings. Once again, I'm Bruce Clark, and I am once again joined in the co-host chair by the fabulous Mr. Robert Evans and Mr. Brian Caparici. And this week, we've got our bow ties on because we have the man of 1,000 bow ties joining us, Mr. Jason Groupp. Welcome, guys. What's everybody been up to?
Welcome.
Morning.
Morning.
Well, let's start with Jason. Jason, what have you been up to?
Oh, it's been a little busy here in the in Santa's workshop. Getting ready for WPPI 2015. It's all hands on deck. Once we get through Photo Plus in New York, it's all hands on deck for WPPI in February, late February.
Awesome, and that's going to be our topic today. We're going to be talking about WPPI and conferences and getting the most out of conferences. So we're really happy to have you on the show, Jason. This is going to be an exciting show, and we're going to really dig into some. We're going to grill you, get all the information, get all the poop and the scoop out of you. So,
thank you, and thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Awesome, Mr. Robert Evans, what's up in your world?
I've just been enjoying some nice time at home. Not traveling this much. So just doing the basic things that photographers do right before the holidays, dealing with the crazy clients and getting albums out the door, and just got a really nice 12 album order, so I'll take that.
Nice.
Well, I didn't just get it, I'm getting ready to deliver it, but just doing those things, emails and catch up and a little holiday marketing and prepping for booking season and just enjoying being home with the family.
Right on. Excellent.
There's nothing better than that feling of delivering those big orders right before the holidays. I can relate to that.
Yeah. I've got a stack of them sitting next to me here that I got to get out the door to clients too. So, and Mr. Brian Caparici coming to us this week all the way from sunny Florida.
Woohoo! Yes, I'm on vacation right now, and for those of you that can see the video, I've brought my entire mic set up, and you should see my little podcast studio here in the little. I think this is actually like a makeup nook in the bedroom that I'm in, but I've sort of taken up the makeup counter with my podcast setup, and my laptop is actually resting on my daughter's building blocks to get it up higher. So you should see my portable setup; it's awesome.
You need to do a behind the scenes.
I totally should.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's me. It's we're getting into Christmas season. I've actually got I hired an employee about a month and a half ago, and she's now transitioning into full time at the studio, and so she's there managing things and keeping things going. And I was able to take 10 days away with the family, so it's
wow.
it's a nice little trip away.
10 days.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's like 3 weeks in American standard.
I know.
Or Europe standard.
It's good. I feel like leading up to the vacation, I was in New York twice, but it just seemed like it was this whirlwind from Photo Plus Expo, and then I was there for Fuji the week after that, and so it was a much needed vacation, that's for sure.
Right on. Well, hey, we appreciate the dedication to TWiP Weddings.
Yes, Bruce. What about you?
Well, if you can tell, my voice is a little raspy. I just got back. I primed the pumps in Vegas for you guys in preparation for WPPI. So I just got back from about 5 days in Vegas, just socializing.
Nice.
So, yeah, I know a really good buddy of mine who I met on a workshop in Italy that I went to with Kevin Kubota a number of years ago. We met this. Our crazy travel group that we met there, and all photographers with a wine problem, and just really hit it off. And he had a 50th birthday, so his wife organized a surprise party for him. And so we flew down to Vegas and surprised him for his 50th and hung out.
Nice.
Very cool.
You have to go to WPPI a few years, and then you go to Vegas. I don't know, Robert, if you've experienced this. You go to Vegas when it's not WPPI, it actually feels weird to be. It doesn't feel. It feels weird.
Where's all the people I know?
Yeah, where's all the people? Exactly.
But don't worry, I left a bit of alcohol. There'll still be some there for February, March.
Thank you.
Don't worry.
Thank you for that.
I tried to clear it out, but awesome. Well, before we get into our main discussion this week, which is going to be talking about WPPI and the conferences coming up, I want to cover our usual regular segments. And first is our picks of the week. And Jason, maybe we surprised you with this one. If you don't have a pick, there's no problem. But each week we try to pick something that would benefit other wedding photographers to check out. It can be anything, as long as it's somehow related to photography or the business of photography. Where we can, we try to make a pick that relates to the topic we're going to talk about. So I know we kind of sprung it on you, so I'll give you a few minutes to think about a pick. But maybe I'll throw it over to Robert. Have you got a pick for us this week?
Yeah, I was trying to think what my pick would be since, we don't have to, but trying to relate the pick to the topic of each week. And since we were talking about WPPI, and one of the things that I always think of going to Las Vegas is, all the kind of shoots that people do out there. And I've done it myself and gone out to the desert and the flats and done some shoots out there. So that's kind of like a fun thing to do when you're out there, is go do your own maybe little personal shoot and project. So my pick of the week is actually an app, and it's called the Magic Hour app. And it's a really cool app, and it basically tells you, no matter where you are, it kind of works like off the compass and tells you when sunrise and sunset is, and what the optimal magic hour light would be. I believe it's free. I couldn't figure out how to do that. I downloaded it, so it's on my phone. I'm like, did I pay for this? I don't remember. You can't go back and look if you own it. So anyway, I think it is free and was free. But it's a great little tool for photographers. You always know when you have the great light.
Nice. Excellent.
That is a good app. I know that app too. It's a good one.
All right, so that's a great pick, Robert. How about Brian? What have you got for the listeners this week?
I have two picks of the week. Is that against the rules?
No, that's fine.
Okay, good. Yes. Okay. It's actually two ends of the spectrum. Number one, I'm holding it here in my hand, and I just got it because I had it shipped down here to Florida. It's a pen. I'm totally a pen junkie. And this pen is called the Pilot High-Tech C. They're made in Japan, I believe. And it's a gel ink pen. It's got what's called a needle point, and it's 0.3 millimeters. So it's like super fine. So for writing, it's really precise. There's no bleed. It's a great pen. And the reason I'm saying this for WPPI is because I actually think it's important. I mean, we love technology and we use iPads and all these things, and that's actually my next pick. But I think there's a lot of merit in actually writing things down, and I think that we take education in so much better when we're actually making notes. And so I would suggest to the listener that if you go to WPPI, which you should be going, bring a notebook, bring a moleskin journal, bring something that you can actually write in, and get one of these pens and write in it, because you're gonna love writing with it because it's such a cool pen.
Nice.
So that's my first suggestion. If you want to buy it online, you actually can't buy these in stores. The website you can buy them on that's how exclusive they are.
This is like a Seinfeld episode with the space pen.
And they're actually not even expensive. They're like $3, so they're not expensive. They're just they're hard to find. It's penaddict.com, and you can find them over there. Penaddict.com. And my next pick of the week, I actually recently, it's the other end of the spectrum, I recently got the iPad Air 2, and I'm upgrading from the original iPad mini. And this thing is amazing. It's like the screen quality is great. It's so much faster than the iPad mini. And the specific pick of the week that I'm going to suggest is what I just picked up yesterday, which is this right here, which is the Logitech Keys to Go keyboard. And it's actually like waterproof, spill-proof, so you don't have to worry about it getting dirty or anything like that. You just wipe it down with a cloth. And it's wireless, so you don't have to have it attached to your iPad. So I've been typing on it. I've been writing articles with the iPad in the corner, and this just sitting on my lap and typing on it. So it's kind of like having a laptop, but it's even better because the keyboard is separated.
Very cool.
So those are both of my picks of the week.
Excellent picks. Excellent picks.
Yes. Bruce, what about you?
Well, mine's also an iPhone app, and this is one that I use a lot when I travel. And so, obviously, if you're going to WPPI, you're probably traveling, unless you happen to be lucky enough to live in Las Vegas, or unlucky enough to live in Las Vegas. I don't know how you feel about that, but I use an app called TWiP, and it's a travel planning app. It's really great. It allows you to organize all your tickets, all your hotel confirmations, as well as any other event. So if you book shows or book, just book anything, you can put it all into TWiP. And it works really well. If you get your airline confirmations, you can just email it. So you get a special email address. You can email it to yourself at TWiP, and then it files it and records it and puts it all in and gets all the time. If they have a free app, and then they have a pro app as well that I think is $1.99 or something like that. With the pro app, it can keep track of your flights. let you know if they're going to be delayed or late or canceled or anything like that. And I think there's a bunch of other little things that the Pro app does that the free one doesn't do. But you can definitely check out the free app, and if you like it, you can always pay the $1.99 and get the paid app. So it's really good. It's for any kind of travel that you're doing and planning and organizing stuff. I think, and that's one of the things when you're going to a conference. I think being organized and planning ahead and taking that time up front can also help you get the most out of it. So obviously, that starts with planning your trip and organizing your trip. So
we need our own app, and we could call it TWiP It. Ooh. And then it organizes all your TWiP podcasts that you want to listen to. Ooh, it's just that idea I just came up with.
I like that. Excellent. So now, Jason, have we given you enough time for a pick?
Well, when you first said pick, I thought you meant picture.
Oh.
So I didn't pick. But you know what? I have a pick that I think everyone should think about is a good backpack. Everybody should have a good backpack. And I noticed I love the in-case backpacks. And the reason I like them is they're really well built, and this time of year is the time to buy their cases, because they usually run like 50% off sale. So I just bought that same backpack because it was starting to show some wear for 50% off. So for $100 I bought that backpack, and that thing's traveled the world with me. So
what was the name of the company again?
Incase, INCASE. Yeah.
Cool.
And taking a thing off of what Brian was saying, writing with a pen is not something we do very often. So someone had just given me a nice pen.
Oh, nice.
And I write with this all the time, and it makes you feel special when you're writing with it. So I definitely can agree with that, with a good pen.
Awesome. There's something special about actually just as a side tangent, something nice about actually just writing it down, right, and seeing it like literally and physically materialize in front of you. I feel like it's like a lost art these days, it seems.
When I write with a pen, I feel like a doctor.
I
look down at the paper and I'm like, what does that say?
I'm the same way. My handwriting is so horrible, it's deteriorated to the point where I can't recognize it at all. Awesome, great picks, guys. And again, we'll have links to all of the picks that we made this week in the show notes for this episode, so you can head on over there and check it out. All right, next up is our listener questions segment, and each week we choose a listener question to answer on the show. And now we haven't launched the show officially yet. We're kind of pre-recording some of these before we launch them. So I found a question online that I thought would be a really good question to answer. I'm sure probably all of us have maybe dealt with this. Hopefully we haven't had to deal with this, but maybe we have. And this question was from a lady named Maddie. And her question was, has anyone ever had a second photographer not show up at all to a wedding? And if that happens, how do you deal with it on the client side? Do you offer a partial refund? How does this need to be worded in a contract? So obviously she hired a second shooter, and the second shooter no-showed on her, which is no bueno. But how would you handle it? Let's start with Jason, since we got Jason on the show this week. Have you ever encountered it or heard of that kind of a situation?
Let's see. I mean, I have had second shooters bail on me last minute, but I've always been able to replace that shooter, last minute. Unfortunately, I've been very lucky with the people that I've worked with that, kind of acted like professionals. And what I try and do is not get too far I mean, I've always worked with, my studio manager's always been my second shooter. And, unless they were very friendly with my client, they really wouldn't know who the second shooter was. So I guess I've been very fortunate in that sense. I don't usually spend a lot of time talking about the second shooter. So I think it's important that you make any and all efforts to have a second person there with you, regardless. If they're expecting a second shooter, a body should be there. I don't know about the refund part. I mean, things happen, and I think that's one of those things that you kind of feel the client out, and I suppose they could make a big stink about it, but on the wedding day, I think keeping things as positive as possible is always the way to go. So, get somebody there, even if the person shows up later in the day than they said they were going to be there. Other than that, you apologize.
Good advice. Good advice. Robert, how about you? What would your advice be?
Well, I have had this
Matt?
happen to me once in my career, and it was not because my second shooter was a flake. It was a very reliable person that got very sick. And I agree with what Jason said. You kind of don't make a big deal about it, but I didn't even have time to replace that person because it was like that morning. And of course, I started my career shooting weddings by myself, so I know how to do it. I'm a big boy. And I just went out and did it. And interestingly enough, we'll have to put this image up, but I have a great story that came out of it. I was working at this private estate in LA, and there was this beautiful shot where if you stood at the house and looked down onto the ceremony area, there was a giant oak tree, and you could look through the oak tree and see the ceremony, and you see the end of the aisle and lead up to it. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like I need this shot of the bride walking down the aisle. And of course, here I am on the one day in my life where I don't have a second shooter. So I think here's the situation. It's like, I was like so determined, and I think attitude is everything. And it was like, how am I going to make this work? How am I going to make this work? I have to have this shot, but I have to be at the front of the aisle. And I'm normally the one that stays at the back of the aisle and shoots behind the scenes, and my second shooters shoot everybody come down the aisle. And so I talked the videographer in to putting his second shooter up there. I showed him the shot. I was excited about it. I sold it, and I put him up there, and I was like, and so then I set up my other camera on a tripod and wide angle lens, framed my shot. And then I said to the videographer, I said, hey, when she gets to the top of the aisle, will you just reach over and click off a few shots on my camera? Yeah, no problem. And so I have this amazing picture of the bride at the top of the aisle walking down like a beautiful setting, and I still got the other shot. As far as the situation of dealing with the client never noticed anything or said anything to me. When Jason was talking, a couple of things that I think we need to think about is there are some photographers that actually say, sell a second shooter and charge for that. I don't. I just include it. So we have to think about that. So that would be a big variable. And again, I don't know how you deal with that situation. I think, you fly below the radar as much as you can. Yeah. And I think in a very last-ditch effort, if you were really worried about it, find anybody, even if they're not a photographer, bring them to the wedding with you, put a camera in their hand and let them shoot. You may not use anything that they do, but the client, like Jason said, is never probably going to notice the difference. So you're going to have to work a little bit extra hard that day, but I think there's always a way. And, of course, there's plenty of able. And might even be a good point to think about is like, we always have a backup second shooter, just for that reason. Think about somebody that, hey, could you be on call today? Or, just in case, it's 99.9% that you will not work. But, something to think about. I mean, I don't know how else we deal with that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's why, our contract should, kind of have something, I think they call it the God clause in there,
Right. Yeah. Brian, you're the business guy. Why don't you address the contract part of it? Because I didn't.
Yeah. So I think a couple of things. First of all, disclaimer: I am not a lawyer, and so any advice cannot be held against us.
Oh, come on!
But no. But what I would suggest is the way that I word those things in my contract. I actually don't require having a second shooter at my weddings, and so I don't have anything in the contract about that. I just have it as a discussion point with my client, saying that I have an assistant who will also take some photos. But that's just a verbal discussion that I have with my client and not necessarily something that I draw into the contract. If in the case that it is drawn into the contract, you have to treat it as such. And it's like, if you were sick for the wedding, like, you would do everything in your best power to find a replacement for yourself. And that's because you have a contract with the couple and an obligation to the couple. And I think that if you're having a second shooter there and you're promising that to the couple, I really think that you should be holding yourself to the same standard that you'd be holding yourself to if you weren't able to make the wedding. Absolutely. And so there's a couple of things with that. Number one, I think there's a lot that we can do to avoid this kind of situation. I think first of all, the one thing that you shouldn't do is go to Facebook and make a post saying, help, I need a second shooter. My shooter canceled on me last minute. Because that's the worst thing. I see that all the time. And it's like, that is so unprofessional. But so I would definitely say don't do that. But I think that there's a lot of merit and value in if you're going to offer a second shooter and put the importance in having a second shooter as something is as crucial as having it in your contract, then you should be having a consistent second shooter. It should be someone that you trust, that you know, that you have all the time. You're not just pulling from a pool of random photographers that are free that day. And so I think when you have that kind of relationship with the second shooter, then you're less likely to run into this kind of situation. I understand that things will always happen, like Robert, what you talked about. Something happens, but if it's someone that you trust, that you know, that you like, that's sort of part of your business, then they're going to be more reliable to you, and they're going to be more accountable to you. And so I think that there's things like that we can do to avoid that kind of situation in the first place. But I really do think that even if you've taken all the measures and you've done everything right and something still happens, I agree with Jason in that, like, don't make a big deal about this on the wedding day. Like, we talked about this in the last episode with the DJ, with the photographer at the wedding and stuff. The last thing you should do is make a big deal about things to your bride. Like, I would be as discreet about it as possible. At the same time, I don't think it's something that should be ignored, because what happens if the client's not happy with their photos and all of a sudden they use that as ammunition? And they're like, well, you didn't have a second shooter at our wedding like you promised us. And so it's like that could snowball into a bad situation as well. So again, if all these things happened, I would still try and scramble to get somebody there to help, even if it's just assisting, just having somebody there so that they can't hold that over you. But again, that's contractually speaking. I don't know how that would be set up. I'd consult a lawyer on that one.
Yeah, adding to that, I know that I belong to, although I haven't been on them frequently, is, you could start a Facebook group, emergency shooters. That's a private group, so that when you do have somebody
Totally.
and I know that I've helped out some other photographers over the years, so karma is a boomerang, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, and actually, that's a really good point. I mean, personally, I'm the chair of our branch of Professional Photographers of Canada, and that's one of the biggest, not, I wouldn't say benefit, because it's not like it's this intrinsic thing that you get, right? But it's by having a community of photographers that you have good relationships with, like, this is one of the biggest reasons why we should be networking locally, and we should be having friends that are photographers locally, because if something like this happens, I've done it for some of our members. A member would call me on a Saturday morning and say, something happened and my second shooter didn't show up, or I'm sick or whatever, and I'll put out some calls because I have a relationship with that photographer and I sort of have their back because of that. And so if you've made an effort to be friendly in your local market and to build relationships and to network and even to get involved with associations like PPOC or PPA or WPPI or any of these things where you can have a local physical community of photographers in your area, I think that's only for everyone's benefit.
Agreed. Yeah, we had. I mean, our second shooter, so we're a husband-wife team. My wife second shoots with me, and we ran into that this year. She was diagnosed right in the middle of wedding season. She was diagnosed with breast cancer, right smack dab in the middle of wedding season. And now, fortunately, just the way treatments and everything landed, she was able to cover and work through most of the season. But there was about 3 or 4 weddings where she just wasn't up to it. And it was such a great help having friends, that I could rely on. It took a bit of doing because it was, right in the middle of busy season. A lot of the, other photographers had their own weddings booked already. So, but it was great. I have a good network of photography friends here where I live, and they were able to, step in and second shoot. We could have a whole episode probably just talking about finding good second shooters and how you use your second shooters and that. But I know it was a big asset, is just networking and getting to know other photographers, right? Because yeah, it happens, so.
Right.
Can I actually interject with one more thought about that? And it's not that I want to get onto the rant of pricing, because I don't want to go there too much. But a lot of photographers that, like I'm the same way. My wife comes with me to all my weddings. And so a lot of the times, photographers that are in that kind of situation, they don't factor in the price for that other person in their packages for their clients, because it's, my wife doesn't charge me for her time on that, right? In other ways, but
You're always gonna pay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're always going to pay. But it's the idea of what happens if that happens, or even like Bruce in your situation where your wife can't come, and all of a sudden now you've got to hire a second shooter to come that you're then paying because of that. And so I do think that even if you are in the situation where you've got someone sort of internal or a family member or a friend or whatever that's there with you to the weddings, I think that we should still be leaving a bit of room in the budget or room in the price that we charge our clients to pay for that kind of thing. Because in that kind of emergency, Otherwise, where's that $500 coming from? It's going to come out of your pocket, out of your bottom line. And so I think if we're making room for that in our prices, which we should be, then it'll open up that much more opportunity, because there's a big difference in flocking to like a Facebook group or making a phone call or whatever and trying to get someone to come out and shoot it for free versus saying, hey, I've got a budget of $500 for my second shooter. Who's available to second shoot for the wedding on Saturday? Big difference in that. And so I think the latter you'll have much more success with that situation.
And quickly, just addressing the contract issue, we can move on. But you could leave it out of the contract. I think you mentioned that, Brian. And then just specifically how I do it, I have what I call Robert Evans Studios signature service, which you get with every package that includes, up to 10 hours, 2 photographers. That's how. But there's nothing in my contract that makes me contractually, So if I were to be taken to court, yes, it's in my signature service. But, and again, under the circumstances, Jane got sick that day, and I was between a rock and a hard place. I don't think a judge or someone's going to, stick it to you.
Well, and so if you wanted to do that, actually, a really good way, and not around that, because it's not about that, but it's just to cover your butt, is you could have second shooter / assistant, and then in brackets, when needed. And so that way you could just say, listen, I made the decision that I didn't need to have a second shooter that day because there wasn't enough people, or it was a small enough wedding, or whatever the situation was. And that way you've just got your butt covered in that kind of situation.
Right.
Awesome. All great suggestions. And I think there's some good fodder in there for a future show on all about seconds and assistants and working with assistants. All right, so let's we want to really dig into the meaty topic today, and which is really we've got Jason here, so we want to really take this opportunity to sort of grill him and find out about what is WPPI and all that good stuff. So for those who maybe aren't familiar with Jason, and come on, everybody's got to know who Jason is, right? He's the man of 1,000 bow ties. But for those who aren't, Jason, maybe just give us the brief introduction of kind of who you are and what got you to the point where you are today.
It's like a Talking Heads fitness song. So I was a wedding photographer for the last 25 years. I'm not doing a ton of shooting these days, although it's funny, I've been trying to find some ways to get back into doing a little more shooting because I'm really missing it recently. After taking a year off after 25 years doesn't really seem like anything. But then a couple years out now, I'm kind of like that creative outlet is something that I've been looking for. So, but I've been a wedding photographer for the last 25 years. I have my own studio in Chelsea in New York City for the last 15 years, shooting as my own studio. I went to college for photography and played around in the commercial world for a little while, and then moved over to weddings full-time 15 years ago. There was an opportunity to fill a position here at WPPI, and that's a long story how that happened, but let's just say conversations happened, and I just happened to be part of the conversations, and they said, well, why don't you just come work for us? And that's really, in a nutshell, how it happened. So it's been just about 2 years now, and I'll be coming up on my third WPPI. I can't believe it, this February.
Wow. So for the uninitiated who aren't familiar with WPPI, just give us a broad stroke. So what is WPPI? And
Sure. WPPI stands for Wedding and Portrait Photographers International. This February will be its 35th WPPI.
Wow.
And one of the funny things that I like to flip through now and again is these old, and Robert, you'll love this, some old show guides.
Oh
my gosh.
This one is one of my favorites from Caesar's Palace that I got. Like every now and again I come across some of these, and this one's from, actually I don't even know what year this is, but well, Wedding Photographers, it used to be Wedding Photographers International.
WPI.
And then it became Wedding and Portrait Photographers International. And, WPPI was created as a way to, specifically for wedding photographers, and then also as a home for not only the full-time wedding photographer, but the photographer who they called it the weekend warriors. So it's about creating a place where there's education for wedding photographers and portrait photographers, and a specific place where they can come and get education. Because a lot of the people that come don't necessarily go to art school for photography, or don't have the background and the training that some other people have. So it's just a great place for people to get educated in wedding and portrait photography. And it's the most fun conference on the planet. And I say that unequivocally, if that's the word. It's the most fun week. We call it the best week of your life, because you come there and I came to my first WPPI over 10 years ago. And I think if you come, making your first trip to WPPI is always a really big decision. Like, oh my God, I'm going to buy that airplane ticket. And, making that jump, that first time, and saying to yourself, I'm going to go and just check this out. But you come, you make some of the best friends, some of my best friends in the world I've made at WPPI. People come and they meet their spouses there. And it's just a really, really fun week, and something that I've enjoyed every week, every year, so much that I'm not working for them.
Wow.
So, but it's been an interesting transition for me, going from photographer, and I've talked about this before. Interesting transition going from my studio, working for myself, to working in an office space and kind of working in that atmosphere. But it's been great.
Awesome.
You say find your spouse there, Jason. So just as a funny story, like I told you, or those that don't know, I've been going to WPPI for probably 25 years, 24 years. I don't remember the very first one I went to. But back then, unlike those brochures, it was about 5,000 guys. And, I was young then, and I was like, oh my gosh, it would be awesome to find, a girl that loved photography. We could do this together. And of course, nothing. It was just a bunch of dudes, and then of course today, what's the totals, like 20,000? Who comes?
Yeah, it goes between 16, 17 to 20,000. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and all girls, more or less. No.
Yeah.
A lot of girls, so a lot different than it was then, and of course happily married. But if you're looking to find a wife that does what you do, WPPI would be a good place for you to start.
Excellent. Brian, how many times have you been to WPPI?
I have been 4 times. 4 times. I think I'm going on my 5th time coming up this February.
Awesome. And you're speaking this year at WPPI, right?
I am.
Excellent. Are you?
What? No, I am.
I am.
I am. Actually, okay, so I have a question for Jason, because I think that this is something, and it's actually really relevant because we're sitting here talking on a podcast online. There's a lot of online education that we can invest our time and money and energy and focus into. Yet still, year after year, 35 years, WPPI goes off with a huge success. I'm curious to hear Jason's thoughts or input on what that looks like going forward, or I guess, why would a photographer want to go to a physical conference, in-person education, sort of what I call offline education, versus continuing to do the online stuff. I mean, we're doing a podcast right now. There's all kinds of online outlets. But why do you think it's important, Jason, for photographers to focus on offline education and actually going to an event like this?
That is a great question. And I'll tell you, I have an answer for that. You're right. There is tons and tons of education that you can get online, and great education. You could learn so much. I mean, gosh, I think about this all the time, about how much I could have learned online and how much I could have, how much faster I could have learned. And, it's, I think as a new photographer too, you need to balance what you're going to spend money on, and it's a lot. It's a lot to get away from your family. It's a lot to make that commitment to travel to Vegas. And so that's the challenge that I'm tasked with every conference that I've created now in the last 3 years. Is I ask ourselves, what is it that we're doing at this conference that we're not going to get from online someplace out there? So there's a couple things that I built into it. I'm just going to try and give a short answer here, but it's about everything with WPPI is about being there. It's about the in-person experiences. It's about networking. It's about the parties. It's all of those things that you never ever can get, and those are things that I'm really bringing into. I'll get into further detail later on, but I think about this every day. Like, why do I need to be at WPPI as opposed to sitting here and looking at it on my computer? And I work very, very hard to try and create these experiences that you're only going to get by being there. And real quickly, like things that haven't changed over the years, our print competition. If you've never been to our live judging, there's nothing like it in the world. No, there's nothing like it. The education that you get on just those 2 days of judging, listening to those 45 judges, you can't get anywhere else. And even if we filmed it, which I have a lot of pressure from people that want me to film it and put it out there, I don't see the reason for it, because unless you're feeling that atmosphere, you can't get that anywhere. The energy in that room from those people and the people around it, when their prints are getting scored, like it's like going to a rock concert. Like, can you watch a rock concert online? Can you watch any concert online? And it's great to be able to sit in your pajamas and watch that, but there's nothing like being there. And WPPI is really like that as well. It's the best analogy I can make.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's the idea of immersion, right? Like immersing yourself in the experience of it is like no other. And I'd also like to maybe chime in and maybe Jason hear your thoughts on this. With online education, one of the biggest complaints that I've seen or heard about online education is that, well, first of all, there's a ton of it, right? So I mean, having to sort of sort through everything is a task in and of itself. But number two, because it's kind of self-motivated, like you can go on and watch a class, or you can go on and read an article, or decide to read an ebook, whatever it is. You don't really have any accountability with doing it, right? You kind of just do it whenever you want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think almost just the sheer fact that you're going to go to WPPI, take a week out of your life and spend money and spend time there, be immersed, be inspired, and just live in that sort of zone. It almost, in a way, I know for me anyways, the first year I went, it forces you to be accountable and actually implement some of the things that you've learned by going away, because you're thinking, well, I've just spent all this time and money there. I mean, I damn well better get my money out of it. I better get a return on it. Otherwise, why did I go, right? So I think, do you think that's a sort of an intrinsic benefit as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you could say the same for college too. It's what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it, right? So if you're going to make that investment, you're forcing yourself to do that. And I think artists are, natural procrastinators to begin with. So by doing this, you work hard to try and get something out of it.
And you touched on something, and you said it earlier, Jason, that you've made some of your best friends in the entire world going to WPPI. And I really think like right there is like one of the key connections to going is like really like heart to heart, one-on-one, life to life communication, talking to people, meeting people, listening to a speaker, sitting in the room, feeling the emotion of the room. We know technology is amazing. I mean, we're four of us sitting here talking on a telephone, which, when I was a kid, we just talked about that, video phone. But I mean, texts and emails and all those things, like the human being needs to connect one-on-one. And WPPI is an amazing way to do that beyond even the other things. And you will, if you go, you will meet, some of your best friends in the world. I look forward to going every year because I've been going so long. There's people that I only see one time a year to sit down and have a drink with them, or a meal, or a conversation, or, it fills you up. It really does.
Yeah, I haven't been, so this is going to be my first year going.
Nice.
I'm looking out. I've been to a lot of workshops. I try to consume a few workshops or conferences each year. That's actually how I first met Jason, was when he came up to Edmonton for a workshop that the PPOC had put on. So I've been trying to do that. I've been trying to go to WPPI for a few years, and just one thing or another has popped up that has not allowed me to go. But this is going to be the year that I'm going to go. So for somebody who's maybe new, who hasn't been to 25 WPPIs like Robert, what would you give us the highlight reel of what's the show about and how's it structured? And
okay, should I talk about classes specifically or survival guide? WPPI?
Where
do you want me to start?
Let's start with let's actually just start with the calendar. Like, what's actually going on? So the dates are February the 26th to March 5th.
Correct.
Okay, so what's going on during that time? Because that seems like it's a long time.
It is. It's a week-long conference, and WPPI is owned by a company that does 40 different trade shows as well, and WPPI is one of the longest out of the bunch of them, and it's the biggest conference out of our trade shows as well. So starting on Thursday. And starting on Thursday morning, we have what we call plus classes. And the plus classes, I changed them up a little bit this year. Used to be 2 days, a day in the classroom and a day out on location. But what I discovered is that, doing a day in the classroom was great, but there's lots of classroom atmospheres that they could get during the week. So what I did was I wanted to make it 1 day, and I really wanted to lower the price of the plus classes. So there are now 1 day programs that start, and there's 10 on. There's 5 on Thursday and there's 5 on Friday. They're 1 day programs for $199 for members, and I'm just looking up the prices now because the plus classes. They're $149 for members and $199 for non-members, and it's a full day program, a few hours in the classroom, and then they're going to go out and shoot for the rest of the afternoon. So it's a little bit more of an intensive day to a small classroom setting, only 25 people. That starts on Thursday and Friday.
Who are some of the people that you've got teaching those classes?
So we have Rocco and Ryan, Rocco Ancora, Ryan Shembri. This is my Bible. We have Parker Pfister, which I think is going to be amazing. Pete Wright, who's a lighting genius. Kelly Brown, and Bambi Cantrell, who's the queen of WPPI. Nick Gionis, somebody's brother, and Jerry's brother. Lindsay Adler, and then we have one more that we're going to do as well. So they're going to be really great classes, and you can see them online. So that's Thursday and Friday.
Okay.
Starting on Saturday morning, the print competition judging starts, and that runs Saturday and Sunday. That's 2 full days. We start at like 8:30 in the morning, and we run till 5 o'clock at night. And also on Saturday is what we're doing, what we call the university, which that code will probably be expired, so I'm not even going to say what it is. Okay. Anyway, you can get a free pass to the university. But the university is going to be a full-day program. In the last 2 years, we've done it as kind of this hands-on day, but we're changing it this year. We're making it all about business. So the whole day is going to be dedicated to setting up your business, marketing, how to do great album design, how to sell products. It's really about like the photographer who's been doing it from 0 to 5 years, who is seeing some success in their business, but really wants to kind of take it to the next level, either with marketing new products, making sure their business is set up properly, doing some great album design. And I know that one of the challenges for a new wedding photographer is, how do I sell them on a bigger album, or how do I do albums? There's so many photographers out there that are just shooting and delivering. And I think people are leaving a lot of money on the table. So this whole day is dedicated to kind of increasing the bottom line for the photographer. And we're calling it the Business Institute. I think it's going to be a really good day. We're doing Sarah Petty is going to be our host. She's a genius when it comes to marketing. And Rachel Brenke is a lawyer and will be touching on, and a photographer. We'll be talking about contracts and tax ID numbers and all that stuff that is really important to us photographers. That's going to be a really neat day. So anyone 0 to 5 years, I would highly recommend coming to the university this year, and that's going to be really great. Sunday, first day of what we call platform classes. So that's when you buy a full platform pass to WPPI, it's $99 for members, $199 for non-members. You will have access to 100 classes plus, and that's just on the platform classes. That runs Sunday through Wednesday, and runs all day long. We also have what we call master classes. Master classes are small classes, 50 people max, and they're 2 hours long. Platform classes are 90 minutes. These are meant to be small group intensives where it's a 2-hour program, lots of interaction between the teacher and the attendees, and where people can really get into it. They also run on Sunday as well. So Sunday is master classes, platform classes. Finally, Monday morning the trade show opens. So, and I don't think people really understand this too, is there's a platform and master classes that open early in the morning on Monday morning, and then the trade show opens at 10 o'clock on Monday morning, runs all day, and then there's more platform classes after the trade show closes. So that's a full day in of itself. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, platform classes, master classes. Wednesday night is our award ceremony, and then on Thursday we're closing out this year with Photo Ignite, and Kevin Kubota always does that every year, and that's a really, 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 really fun program. And if you don't know anything about it, I believe you can go to photoignite.com. I'll get you guys the URL on that, but you can go see some of the old videos with myself included. I think, Robert, you did it as well one year, Photo Ignite?
I haven't done Ignite.
Oh, okay. I think you should do it. So it's a 5-minute program that you create, and you send them 20 slides that change every 20 seconds. So for 5 minutes, the slides change, and you've got to do this program. It's a script that you do with education about photography, and they're really fun to watch because the photographer trips up, and you're kind of there like it's intense, and it's a lot of fun to watch. So we close out on Thursday with that. And then just real quick, we have parties almost every night. So Saturday night we're doing a party with Jerry, and it's going to be called Almost Famous, where you can submit a audition video if any of you guys play instruments or what have you, where it's going to be kind of like a battle of the bands type thing, where Jerry's going to host and people are going to come in and play with their bands, and then it's also an audition where we're going to play your photography in the background. So bands, photography, fun, dancing. It should be a fun night. Sunday nights are opening night party at Hakkasan, which is the hottest nightclub in the world, according to them. It's in the MGM, and it's a really, really cool nightclub that only opened up 2 years ago. And we did our first opening night party this year. And it's a really great party. Last year was just this really great party. The only suggestion there, got to get there early, because when we hit our limit for people, that's it. Nobody else gets in. So you got to get there early and to make sure you get in. Monday night is our pool. No, Monday night, Joe McNally is doing our keynote, which should be amazing. Tuesday night's our pool party. Wednesday night's our award ceremony. There you have it. There's WPPI, 7 days.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
And when do you factor in sleep? Does that come
Sleep.
Friday?
You
There's
don't.
no
Friday.
sleep.
That's Friday.
There's no sleep.
I had 1 year at WPPI. I slept 12 hours and 4 days.
Try doing it for 10 days. That's me.
Yeah.
Man, I just came back from 5 days in Vegas, and I'm exhausted. I'm
Yeah.
going to have to get it. There should be like training. You should have like boot camp where you have training before, like the week beforehand, you'd have like boot camp where you get in shape.
Well,
WPPI tip that'll save you a ton of money. When you first get there, take a cab, whatever, if you're there, run to the store, get yourself a ton of water, keep it in your room so you're not paying $7 for a bottle of water, and drink lots of water.
Yeah. That, and get yourself some snacks to eat during the week, because it's expensive to eat at the food court, and get breakfast every morning and stuff like that. And I also suggest do a web search for WPPI Survival Guide, and you'll come up with tons of people who have created their own blog posts. We'll do one again this year. I always do one. And yeah, it's prepare, because it's a long week and you want to make sure that you get your education in as well. And it can be really overwhelming the first year.
Do you guys have an app yet for it?
We will have an app. We're working on it now. Yeah, the app is great.
Yeah.
Super helpful.
I've seen those at other trade shows, and it's very helpful to keep track of.
Yeah.
Good.
So you don't have to be a member of WPPI to attend. This is open to anybody, member or non-member. But if you are a member, you obviously, there's some savings there, right?
Yes. One of the big changes we did do this year is we have had, when you signed up for WPPI, you would automatically get a free guest pass. And with our registration process, we found that it was just really confusing for everybody. So what we decided to do was to lower the price down. Because last year was $199, so we brought it down to $99 and discontinued the free guest pass. So as a member, I'm getting called into a meeting over here. They're like standing at my window over here. Getting rid of the free guest pass and lowering the price down, we decided it would be a much easier way for registration. And there's lots of benefits that come to being a WPPI member. One is you get discounts to all of our contests and competitions. So if you enter in our print competition or first and second half competitions, you get rangefinder and photo district news, which is part of our group. You get discounts to our conferences across the board with the WPPI conference. There's discounts on all the master classes, the plus classes, everything, as well as Photo Plus in New York City if you want to come to that. And then we have some other contests as well that you get discounts for. And I've done some, kind of research on this. If you enter a couple of prints into our print competition, or enter our top knots with rangefinder, or the PDN wedding contest, a couple of those come to WPPI. The membership for $125 will pay for itself. And I'm also working on some other benefits to WPPI, like maybe some special lines and stuff like that. So there's lots of different benefits for. Hang on one second, guys.
Yep.
And while he's doing that, like one thing he mentioned, Rangefinder, best photography magazine, best content. Rangefinder is an amazing magazine. I get so excited, wait for it to hit my mailbox. And I know it's online now as well, but love Rangefinder. It just each month there's different topics. They feature different genres of photography. Right around WPPI, of course, there'll be a wedding issue that comes out. But it's such a great magazine. I mean, I know that would be a lot for a magazine subscription, but worth the $125 just for the magazine.
Awesome.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, the expo was another big part of it, and I'm excited about the expo because I think that's where you can go and press the flesh and meet your vendors, meet your partners. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about the expo and what.
So again, also an overwhelming amount of stuff goes on during the expo. So you have all the conference education, and then there's the expo as well. It's a huge trade show, and it's split into 2 rooms. Some people have said to me, like, "Oh my God, I didn't even realize there was a whole other room to go into." So you need a plan for that as well. And I think people don't realize that the exhibitors also are getting a lot out of the feedback they get from you. So I know the album companies and the labs and the new companies that have different things, the editing software companies and the editing companies, all of these places depend on the feedback they're getting from you during the year. So you're an integral part of this, I'm using the word tessellation that goes on during WPPI, where all these people are coming together, and in the trade show and the conference, everybody's creating this mosaic of things that are going on. So you're going there to find new products and stuff that you're going to be inspired by. Say, oh my God, look at these things. Look at this new album. Look at this new app that I can use. But as a seasoned veteran, you can also come and say, hey, you know what? I'm not really thrilled about this, or I really love this. I need you to make more of these. And a lot of people will leave WPPI and base their entire year off of what they've learned from that year. They come back and they do these meetings, and and it's all based around WPPI. So you need a plan going into it. You get the show guide, get the app, look at the companies and say, I want to see this, 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 and this company. And there's usually a lot of giveaways too, so you can come home with a lot of swag too if you're smart.
Yeah.
So bring an extra suitcase then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
A swag case.
I mean, again, the important part about that, like we've already sort of touched about, but is, again, being there in person, you can touch it, you can touch that album, you can feel that album. Jason said you can talk to that album rep, you talk to the salespeople you deal with. You can meet the presidents and owners of a lot of the companies, and you cannot do that online. You have to put yourself on an airplane or in a car and get yourself there.
Yeah, I remember my first year at WPPI. I was going into it. I was fresh in the wedding photography industry, and I was like, I was a little overwhelmed with like the options that I had available to me as a photographer. I mean, this is even going back, I think 9 or 10 years ago now, and there's a lot more options now in terms of products that I can offer my clients or different album manufacturers, all these things. And I remember trying to figure out who I wanted to use for my album supplier before, going to WPPI and doing it online. And I was like, I'm so overwhelmed. Like, I don't even know where to start. I don't like, what's a flush mount? What is a this mount? What is a this cut? And it was so overwhelming for me to try and figure it out online. I can only imagine how much more overwhelming it is for photographers to do it in today's industry. And so for me, even that first year, like my only goal in that first year was to walk the trade show floor, touch and feel every single album that was available, and make the decision of which album manufacturer I wanted to go with. And I've stuck with that album company for the last 10 years because of that. And I think the importance of actually being there, Jason, like you're saying, Robert, like you're saying, is just talking with the people, but also then just like actually seeing like what the options are. Like when you look at a website or a product page on a supplier's price list, it's hard to be like, well, what is like a flush mount from a float mount from a standout mount? Like, what does that mean? But you can actually go to these trade shows and actually see and touch and hold and ask questions and gain clarity for yourself. That's almost for me worth it in and of itself. And then we're layering 1,000 other things on top of it.
Yeah. So, all of those things combined really makes for, and the energy, and again, the relationships that you'll, having that face, that person that you contacted, the people that are at the trade show, the people you're going to talk to on the phone. All of these are small businesses, and you'll develop those relationships with them. It's great.
Yeah, I'm excited to go. And even just, the more educated we can become in our own products, we can bring that to our clients because, we'll have clients coming in and it can be overwhelming for them when they're given some of these options. So the better we're able to explain, the difference between some of these things to them. And I think it's like Brian was saying, it's really tough to get that from just a website or from a price list, right? You really have to be there, see it, touch it, feel it. Because, I know with my album company, they have like a gazillion options. And, I don't have an unlimited budget to order in a gazillion samples of all the different, permutations and combinations. So I'm excited to go there and get my hands on some of the different ones as well that I haven't seen yet. And they're always introducing new products and these, new things into their lineup. So for me, I'm really looking forward to seeing some of those things, getting my hands on them, and talking to the reps and actually, that face-to-face time with them for sure.
Yeah, and I would say almost every single vendor, and let's just talk albums since you're talking about that, does a discount. Like you want a sample album, you want to try that new company, they're going to give you a free book maybe or 50% off or, just for becoming a new customer and trying out the album. And again, if you think about sales, you can't sell a client a book if they can't touch it and you can't put it in their hands. And so you're now putting yourself in their position by going to the show and touching that book and feeling it. And now you're excited about it. You get yourself a sample, you take it back to your studio or your place of business and you're showing it to your clients. You're going to sell product. It's 50% of the battle. You have to have it. You can't just describe this amazing book that you have.
Yeah, it'd be like trying to sell a car and just off of a picture, say, not being able to test drive it or get behind the wheel.
Hey, so when we first started talking, Jason, and you started talking about the actual, things that are happening in that 7-day period, you sort of hinted at the fact that there's potentially like a survival guide that you could go into. Is there like a Cole's Notes version of that you can give us, like, getting the most out of your experience there? What are some things that photographers can do to prep for WPPI or for any conference for that matter? What are some things that will allow attendees to really benefit the most from a conference like this?
I mean, I think with any conference, do your homework. So, sit down with the website and, pour through all the classes, decide what you want to take. It takes a little while to get through our registration process, so it's not something that's going to take you 3 minutes to do. You need a good 10 minutes to get through the entire registration process. But before you go into doing that, look at our class schedule and, jot down some notes. Understand what the different classes are. Plus classes, master classes, the university and plus class and master class and platform classes. Platforms are our biggest program and comes with, your full platform pass, and that's kind of where you're starting from. So you want to buy a full platform pass, you get those classes. And one quick note is that you can, what we do call pre-board for 5 of those classes during those platform classes. And what that does is it gives you, when we print out your registration ticket, you'll get tickets to get into that class, and there's a separate line for that. So you're almost guaranteed to get into that program, because some of them do fill up, but generally you can get into any of the platform classes. And then decide if you want to add on a master class or a plus class or the university. So you need a plan with that. That's the first thing. So it's a lot. There's 200 classes. There's 250 speakers. And you know what? I'm completely forgetting that we added photo walks this year. So on top of everything else, I mean, yeah. So the biggest thing that we're doing this year is our photo walks. We're doing 50 photo walks, or what we're calling photo walks, shootouts, whatever you want to call them. And there's 50 of these classes going on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday this year, where we're going to meet in this big room, and each time slot will have 10 leaders, we're calling them, and they're going to go out and lead these shoots, whether it's going to be out on the strip doing off-camera lighting, whether it's going to be Roberto doing something probably on posing, is it going to be just shooting an available light outside, maybe it's boudoir, it's whatever. And we've created a Facebook group that you can go on and ask questions, and there's so much that's going to happen with that. And I'm really, really stoked for this year, because you're really going to be able to go take a class, and it's limited to 25 people. So it's you and the leader, 25 people. Some of our gear manufacturers are going to get involved with it this year, and maybe give you some equipment that you can use when you shoot it, when you go out and shoot. It's really going to be a lot of fun, and I think everyone's going to get into a little bit of trouble, and it should be awesome in that sense. So you got to do your homework, and that's the best thing that I could do. Robert's advice of getting some snacks: dump your bags, go out and get some snacks, buy some water, do that. And one little tip that I think I can give is check out the restaurants in the MGM. The evenings sell out, like for reservation wise. So go on, what is that restaurant website?
OpenTable.
Thank you, OpenTable.
OpenTable, yeah.
Go on OpenTable, go to MGM, find the restaurants. You can either call the restaurants directly, or I always make a couple of reservations for some of the restaurants for 4 or 5 people, because they sell out, and then you can't, and you're looking for a place to eat. Splurge on Shibuya, or I mean, that's amazing.
And my dessert passion, I'm not a big dessert person, is banana cream pie. The best banana cream pie I've ever had in the entire world is at Emerald's. If you're a banana cream pie lover, you go get that banana cream pie at Emerald's, and you will go, wow. That's all I'm saying.
Nice. So I mean that's a couple of things. And again, on our blog, if you go back, you'll definitely find a full survivor guide from me last year.
I think another one, we kind of alluded to it, but quickly, again, it's planning. You mentioned it, Jason. But trade show, again, that trade show is overwhelming. He mentioned it's 2 ginormous rooms, like the size of football fields, full of vendors. Do your homework ahead of time, decide who you really want to see, and map that out, because the trade show can be very overwhelming. And then especially if you go and you're running into people and trying to talk, but you have an agenda, and so map that out, decide who you want to go see, make a plan, even all right, we're going to go see all these people in this building today, and so you're not bouncing back and forth. And it's really helpful, especially if there's a lot that you want to see within the trade show.
And there's classes that go on there as well too, right? Even within the expo show floor. Right?
Correct. Like I shoot Sony cameras, so I'll be speaking in the booth during the trade show. We speak anywhere from 2 to 3 times a day. All the artisans talk, so there's talks all day long, every 30 minutes, and you'll see a ton of booths. Of course, the other camera manufacturers, Nikon, Canon, ton of the other vendors that have product. There's always someone talking in the booth, so chances are your favorite photographer might be speaking in a booth if you can't get to the platform, so you can search that out as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, good advice.
Yeah, so lots of information. So we'll want to be respectful of everybody's time. I know we could probably talk for hours and get into some of the different things, but it sounds pretty exciting. So maybe just a quick couple of tips. Go around. I know Jason gave us a couple of tips already. Maybe Brian, what are a couple of tips that you'd give people when just attending a conference in general?
Okay, so I'm really passionate about this idea. We've talked about the idea of planning, and I think that we can even transpose that a little bit further in the idea of go to these conferences and these events with intent. So go there And yeah, I mean, it's totally great to be there in the social setting and to let sort of that take its own life. That's a natural part of it. But I think that going there with a very specific purpose or very specific plans, I think that that's how you can get the most out of it. You know, like when you're there at an event like WPPI and you're surrounded by like 20,000 photographers, it is easy to get overwhelmed. And sure, like you may, pull out your phone and try and, Facebook message or put out a blanket tweet saying, who's here? Let's get together for coffee, blah, blah, blah. But if you can make those kinds of plans or know who's going or reach out to some people ahead of time and then go there to the event with that intent and kind of like with a bit of a schedule, I know for me that's been really, really successful. When I was at Photo Plus Expo in New York there just, not too long ago, that's exactly what I did. And I had like meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. And everyone's got to eat, right? And so use those opportunities to eat to network or to meet people or like reach out to your album manufacturer and say, hey, let's do lunch on Thursday afternoon. When do you guys have a break? And like get together and have lunch with them. I think that when you can have those more intimate one-on-one kind of conversations, you can sort of discover so much more. And so I love the idea of really networking and treating an event like this with intent. And that would be my suggestion.
Nice.
Excellent. Robert, how about you? What's your advice?
Well, so since Brian picked a word, I'm going to pick a word, and I'm going to pick attitude. Your attitude towards the show, and I'm going to relate my own experience. I mentioned before that I've been going for roughly 20-something years. And I remember being a young, arrogant photographer, and it's really not my personality. But I won't even say I was arrogant, but I do remember sitting in the back of a room listening to a speaker and judging their work or their images and really not gaining anything from it. And really realized like, wow, you need to change your attitude. And even if I didn't necessarily agree or like the work or it was different, there was always, always, always one thing I could glean from that person that I could walk away with. So even if it's that, of course, you have the option. If you're not satisfied with the class, you're more than welcome to get up and leave. But, you don't have to badmouth that person, especially via Twitter or any of those things now that we can do. Just go find a different class or challenge yourself and sit there and find the diamond in the rough and find that one piece of advice that you could come back and add to your repertoire or what you do in your studio. And when I changed my attitude, I really found I got a lot more out of a conference and speakers and things like that. So that's my attitude.
Good advice.
It's a great suggestion.
Excellent. Really good. Yeah, I like that. I really like
Bruce,
that.
how about you?
Boy, well, I haven't been to WPPI before, but I've been to other conferences, and I've talked to other people who've been to WPPI, and sometimes they've gone, and maybe they don't know anybody. Maybe it's their first time going, and they, like you say, they can feel a little bit overwhelmed. So I think going there and just making those friendships and looking for people to meet up with and just find a friend, trying to find somebody in your area, a way to network with people. I don't know, Jason, is there any, I've been to conferences, not WPPI, but other conferences where they have like a thing for newcomers so they can partner up or like a buddy system where they can, so if they don't know anybody and they're not feeling that comfortable, is there a way or a good, what would you suggest to them in terms of a networking opportunity to get to know people so they're not feeling kind of overwhelmed?
I've been trying to work on like a new member meetup, and I'm still working on that. Generally,
what if you just did a Facebook group like you mentioned, like start that way, like WPPI first timers? Because that's Bruce, that's awesome because people get intimidated and they're scared and they don't want to ask questions. Nobody wants to be first, but if you're with a bunch of people that are.
Yeah, I'm going to do that today. I'm going to start the WPPI New Timers Facebook group.
First timers.
Come out and ask questions.
And Bruce is going to be the first one to join to support that.
And I think you will find that the WPPI family loves to help each other. Everybody wants. Everybody's, we're so excited for you to come for your first WPPI. Like, we're genuinely excited for you to be there. So, put yourself out there if you're a newcomer, and you will make friends because, I guarantee it. And I can tell you what, if you're really worried about making a new friend, you can email me, jason.group@emeraldexpo.com, and I'll put you in touch with somebody who will definitely be happy to be one of the things that I like to do is get some people who help people this year. And
hey, you start that group. I'll send me an invitation. I'll go on there and like sponsor somebody. Like, hey, I'll meet with you.
Great.
Let me show you around. Like, let's do and I think that'll be start developing that.
Yeah. Cool. Excellent. Awesome.
I like that. Yeah, that's awesome. That's really good. So before we kind of wrap it up, what's kind of just the quick dirty details? Registration, where do they go? What's the deadlines? What are they looking at price-wise?
There's a whole page you can find of all the deadlines and all the information. It's a lot. So the December 14th is our first early bird deadline. So I don't know if this will be out by then. And I know the best thing is to look at this, but December 14th is our early deadline. We'll probably extend it another week. We always do. And I think you'll find when you do your homework on membership, becoming a member, getting a full platform pass, joining our print competition, and getting Rangefinder, getting Photodistrict News, you'll find that it's worth the money. I think you'll also find for the amount of education that you're going to get, there's no place else that you can get this much education. And every speaker that you'll find that's out there, you're going to find is going to be at WPPI. So you can WPPIonline.com. On the right side, you'll see all that information.
Excellent. We'll put links to all this stuff in the show notes for this episode, and people can go check that out. So I guess that brings us to the end. Again, we probably could have go on and for hours. It's so much we could talk about around this topic, but we really appreciate Jason coming on the show this week. And so to wrap up, where can everybody find you if they want to find you online, social media, those kind of places? Where's the best places to find you?
WPPIonline.com. That's our website. You can get everything there. I did mention our print competition website is WPPIawards.com. Our Twitter is @RFWPPI, so Rangefinder and WPPI share that together. Our Facebook page is WPPI something online. Or other. Yeah, it's WPPI Online, so facebook.com/WPPI Online. What else? I think that's it.
Awesome.
Right? Yeah.
Excellent. Again, we'll put all those links in the show notes so people can check it out. Perfect. All right. Brian, where can people find you guys?
In Florida.
In Florida?
Yeah. No, you can find on Twitter and Facebook. I'm at BCapPhoto. Instagram as well. If you want to find us, sproutingphotographer.com is where I write educational articles for photographers about the business of being creative. sproutingphotographer.com.
Awesome. And Mr. Robert Evans.
You can find my website at robertevans.com. Twitter is @robertevans.com. Instagram is @robertevans. I should say Twitter is just @robertevans. And then Google Plus is plus Robert Evans 101, since somebody unfortunately took that. But and I will be at WPPI in the Sony booth. So you want to come visit me, say hi, say, I heard you on TWiP. I'll give you a high five. And excited.
Same for me.
I'm looking forward to meeting the listeners, and then when we get there, and actually WPPI will be the first time that Brian and Bruce and I will all be in one place.
Yes.
Nice.
So that'll be exciting as well. Looking forward to that. And if you're looking for me, you can find me. My website is momentsindigital.com, or if you're looking on the Twitters and the Instagrams, it's @BruceClark, Clark with an E. Well, that brings us to another fantastic episode of TWiP Pro Weddings. Be sure to head on over to the website at thisweekinphoto.com. That's where you're going to find a link to everything we talked about, on the show here today. And all the links and all that good stuff, you'll find it on there. So, thanks again for listening to TWiP Pro Weddings, raising the bar one wedding at a time.